school gymnastics program faces an uncertain future after a social media post let its followers know about an upcoming pause. I stopped by the gym to learn more. A Facebook post announcing the pause of the Old Town-Orono competitive gymnastics program at the end of June has the program's families and athletes looking for answers.
I was shocked and flabbergasted. I passed the news on to my older daughter, who was 13, and she melted down in a pile of tears that lasted for about 2 minutes.
The May 7th post announcing the June 29th pause cited a desired structure to pair coaches with athletes at a level in which both the coach and participants feel comfortable. The decision was met with opposers wanting more transparency in the process.
We apologize for any miscommunication. We apologize for people's frustrations. We understand that people are frustrated.
There's so much shock, anger, confusion. We don't know what to tell our girls other than it seems like they are giving us a message that our daughters don't matter and the community doesn't matter.
A second post from Wilcox on May 9th added that this decision came down to our ability to keep our athletes safe and provide quality coaching.
Every decision that was made was based on facts that were developed and came to throughout several different people observations and concerns within the Y organization and the board.
Where are the specifics? I'm a physician. I've never been worried about the safety of my daughter while she's been here.
A board member emailed Callan Breen on Wednesday stating, while I, as a board member, understood that the decision to cancel gymnastics was due to the Y's severe budget shortfall, the declining numbers in the gymnastics program and across the state, and the need to redirect our limited resources towards programming that generates much needed revenue, it appears that the gymnastics family was told differently.
Whoever was making this decision was using two young girls who stepped into a leadership role as like a scapegoat.
Parents I spoke with had doubts about the competitive team program returning.
I'm afraid to say that the temporary pause it's going to be a way to terminate the program on a permanent basis. I've worked in big business and healthcare, and that's the way things are done.
It is not a permanent pause. That is a discussion that we need to have with the group of parents and athletes that we're looking to get into that public forum.
Wilcox sent an email to gymnastics team parents on Saturday that the YMCA is currently working to schedule a limited parent meeting this week.
We need to make sure that we have the right players in place, but that will be attended by staff and board members for parents and athletes to come in and ask questions at that time and hear from us.
The parents and management here need to get together.
It is a limited parent meeting. So I asked, who's going to be allowed to come to this limited parent meeting? How are they going to make that determination? This should be a community public forum. This is a community issue. This involves everyone who uses this YMCA.
Atia added the decision to pause the long-standing program is tough news based on the benefits he sees for the athletes.
I don't understand why they want to pause it at all. I see so many happy kids here and what the positive impact it's making in their lives. I was really sad about it. I was sad for my daughter to have the rug pulled out from underneath her feet and all these other kids' feet. It's just, I don't understand it.
We want people to know that our gymnastics program up through to team is a very strong program and that we're still continuing to run that.
A Change.org petition called Reinstate the Old Town-Orono YMCA gymnastics team has reached roughly 2,600 signatures as of early Tuesday morning. I have confirmed with an attending parent that the limited parent meeting will be taking place at an undisclosed location on Wednesday at 4:30 p.m.